Hello guys, today we are back looking at the SEM bulldozer, and in the last video we took a look inside it and seen how much space we had, and kind of had an idea of how we were going to start this build. So what I'm going to do today is try and get some drive motors installed if I can. I've just got a few of these N20 motors. They have a worm drive gear in here, so going to be pretty slow, but should be a lot of power. The benefit, or the reason I wanted to use this one, is because it's quite narrow, so we're easily going to get one of them on either side of the model, leaving a good bit of space up the center for a shaft that might have to go down here, or we could put a LiPo battery in between the two. So there's a lot of options there. I've only seen these motors show up on AliExpress and eBay in the last 6 months, something like that. But I'd say they're going to be pretty good. I'd say they'd be good in the boom of an excavator too. I'd imagine the worm gear is going to be pretty strong. So that's what I'm looking at. First thing I'm going to do is try and drill out this part, and then hopefully we'll be able to 3D print some sort of axle or some sort of connection that we can go to here. I might just 3D print the entire gear that will just connect directly to the N20 motor, but I'm not just 100% sure yet. Okay, so I've drilled out both sides of the model here. Wasn't that easy at all, because there's so many different layers. The central one didn't work as a great guide, so it kind of was a little bit messy, but we got there in the end. And I'm going to put 3D printed bushings in here anyway, so that should help to get the thing straightened out. We'll base the bushings off this outer diameter here, which hasn't really changed on either, so as long as they're lined up with that outer side, then we should be fine. What I'm going to do is print a bushing. I'll put the bushing in from this side. I'll print a gear that will extend through the bushing, and the main part for the D shaft will be on the gear. So the bushing, the gear will go in, and then from this side the D shaft will go in, and then we'll have to 3D print some sort of carrier to hold the motors in place on the inside. But so far so good. The only thing, I was hoping that we'd be able to reuse these posts some way, but it's very difficult to try and get drilling in there. I don't have something small enough with a strong enough bit that will actually go into that, so I probably just need a higher quality drill bits really, but I don't have them, so we'll just do without that. We'll come up with some other way of securing the bottom. I was also thinking as well, if we put our radio on the bottom here and we put this cover back on, this is all metal, even the base of this, so there's no area for the radio signal to escape. So I think we're going to have to 3D print a base for this anyway, just to make sure that we can get a good signal out of the model. So next thing to do is 3D print the parts. Okay, well here's the parts that we just 3D printed. This is the bushing, so that bit just goes in there. Then we have our two gears, which is come out pretty good, I think. They're fairly close to the original. It's very hard to see if that's actually lining up on the camera, but they're pretty close. It's a pretty good print, I think. So our bushing goes in first, then our gear goes in there, and that should all be lined up where the original was. And then from this side we should be able to get our D shaft located. So bit of a tight fit. So that would be something like that. I think I pushed that in a bit too far there. But we need to 3D print the carrier for the gear itself, or for the motor itself, but that's basically what we're working with. So I might just get 2 wires connected to the motor here and connect up the track, and we'll just see how easily it spins, just to make sure that everything's lined up there and that nothing's going to fall off too easily. Okay, so we have things kind of temporarily together here. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to have to hold the motor and try and connect the battery here. So this is a 1S LiPo battery. It should be about 4.2 volts, so it's probably discharged slightly. Well, it was rotating, but this part is just press fit on, so just jumped off there. Okay, so here we go again. Pretty much trying to do anything in front of a camera makes it about 10 times as hard. Well, it seems to be spinning it around okay, but every once in a while we come to a hard patch, and I guess that could be a hard spot in the track, because obviously this track was never meant to be used like this, so there might be a couple of areas. There's something there. There's a little spot of die cast there, so the track isn't flexing properly there, and there's another one here. So maybe those little discrepancies are causing an issue. So at the minute with our 1S battery it seems to be working okay, but if it turns out that it's not going to have enough power, we can always up it to 7.4 volts. We're not going to be hooking this up to a trailer, so it doesn't really matter if we go to the higher voltage. But that said, you could always send a signal from the vehicle back to a trailer, even if you were using a 7.4 volt, but you couldn't connect a 7.4 volt battery and a 4.2, a 1S LiPo battery. So if most of your models like mine are using a 1S battery, and I usually have 3 wires connected, what you would do is just not have the positive wire on any of your 7.4 volt models, because then you'd have ground and you'd have your UART signal, which would be at the regulated 3.3 volts. So you'd have ground and the UART signal, and they could communicate to the trailer, but you wouldn't connect the power, because that way you could end up accidentally connecting 2 batteries with twice the voltage between them. So that would be a very bad idea. You'd blow the battery in the smaller vehicle. So using 7.4 volt, nothing wrong with it. Just make sure that you don't accidentally connect a 7.4 volt battery to a 3.7 one. That's all I'm saying. So this seems to be working okay anyway. I'm going to have to come up with some sort of cover or some holder for these two motors that I can position in there. Maybe the part that I 3D print will fit down over these two posts, and use this kind of piece that's sticking out here as a support, so that everything lines up perfectly, because you really want to get the motors nice and stable and straight, so that you're not bending your axle inside this piece here, because if your motor is at an angle, that's going to be putting lots of pressure on the bushing in here, so you want to avoid that as much as you can. You want your drivetrain to be as straight as possible, so we'll take a bit of care to make sure that we get that part of it right. But that's all I have time for today. I'll do that in the next video, and I might try and design some sort of a channel to connect to this part at the back here. So maybe in the next video I'll get the part to hold the two motors and figure out how I'm going to lift this this ripper chute at the back here. So that could be the plan for the next day. That's all I have for today. I hope you're enjoying this build series, and if you are, don't forget to hit the like button and get subscribed and get the bell on so you get the notifications. But that's all for today. Thanks very much for watching.